Hello and thanks for joining this webinar about how to sell consulting services. And yeah, let's just wait maybe a minute, half a minute or a minute for everyone to join. While we are waiting, it would be great if you could let me know where you're joining from. So if you can just send me a message through chat window if you are joining through Zoom or sorry, if you're joining through LinkedIn or YouTube, you can send me through a chat window. If you're joining through Zoom, you can send this through a Q&A. Just let me know where you are joining from, so city and the country. I'm joining in from Zagreb, from Croatia. And while I'm waiting for your responses, just a couple of notes. So first of all, we are recording this webinar, and you'll be able to watch it basically from the same page where you actually registered for the webinar. So if you registered on the Advisera website, you will see it on the same page where you registered. I mean, the recording will be on the same page where you registered. And if you join through YouTube or through LinkedIn, then you can actually see the recording on the same page where the live webinar is now. Okay, I see someone from Stuttgart, I mean near Stuttgart in Germany. Okay, great, thanks for letting me know. Okay, a second thing, you'll be able to download the presentation deck, and if you stick to the end of the webinar, I'll actually let you know where you can find the link to download the presentation deck. Okay, I also see someone from Malaga. Great, I assume Malaga, Spain. I'm not sure if I'm getting the city right. Okay, good. So I think, yeah, we can start. So welcome to this webinar, how to sell ISO consulting services. My name is Dejan Kosutic and I'm the CEO at Advisera, a company that makes compliance easy to understand and simple to use. And besides being a CEO at Advisera, I also worked as a consultant in my previous professional life, in Advisera, we are also working a lot with consultants. I would say that I know consultants quite good, and I think I have lots of, let's say, tips on how to make consultants much more successful. And yeah, this webinar today will last approximately 45, maybe 50 minutes, and I'll make it as interactive as possible. So please do ask any questions that you're interested in, and I'll try to answer them, even as I go through the slides, so you can send me your questions. Of course, we'll also have this Q&A session at the end, and then you can also ask your remaining questions. Okay, great. Let me move on to this next slide. So basically, why is this selling of consulting services important? Well, the reason, unfortunately, is very simple, and this is, if you do not sell, you're simply not going to survive as a consultancy. And it's unfortunately as brutal as that. If you are a smaller consultant, like if you are a one-man band, if you are the only one that handles everything, then you'll certainly have to spend a certain amount of time, selling your services, because clients are not going to come by themselves. This is something that simply has to be a part of your work. And what I'll present in the webinar today are, various techniques for getting leads or prospects, and also how to convert those leads, how to convert those prospects into paying customers. And this webinar today is mainly for smaller consultancies, meaning for consultancies where you do not have a professional salesperson. So basically, I'll explain, some techniques for both beginners, for smaller consultants, but both beginners, but also for more experienced consultants, because you'll see I'll also present some more advanced techniques on how can you actually get new prospects and how to convert them. Okay, good. So basically, one of my main points today, if not the main one, is that this competency or skill of selling is actually becoming one of the core skills for consultants. Whether you want it or not, this is unfortunately part of your work. Again, especially if you are a smaller consultancy, if you have to sell your services in parallel to delivering any kind of job. And the sad truth is that if you have two consultants, one is better at selling but not as good as in let's say ISO consulting, and the other one is better in ISO consulting but not good or better in not so good in selling, you know, guess what? Who is going to be more successful? Unfortunately, this guy here, which has more sales skills and not so many ISO skills. Why is that so? Because simply, you know, the people that can present themselves, that can find more clients, will be more successful, and ultimately throughout time they will get better in ISO consulting as well. So the point here is, you know, you cannot avoid selling. This is simply something that you have to accept. Okay, let's see the agenda for today. First I'll go, my next slide will be, you know, the things that you actually have to do before you start selling. And this is, by the way, these are, you'll see 4 steps there. And this is something that most consultants are actually kind of not paying attention enough to. And when not paying enough attention to these basic things, then you actually find it very hard to sell something without those basics. You'll see what they are. Okay, and then how to get the first clients, how to get clients in the long term, because there is quite a difference, you know, in how you approach the market in the beginning versus long term. And then how to use LinkedIn and YouTube, because lately these 2 channels are becoming more and more important, and I'll show you several techniques on how you can use these 2 channels to actually communicate with your prospects. And finally, how to present yourself to a prospect, and how to convert them into paying customer. And yeah, okay, let's start with this, you know, these basic things that again, most consultants are not paying attention enough to, and then they have problems because of that. Okay, the first thing is really that you have to find a niche. And when I say you have to find a niche, by a niche I mean that a specific segment of the market where you are specialized and where you are, I would say, known. Okay, and I repeat this example that I'll give you very often, but I think it's a good example. And this is actually my example of when I started as a consultant, and I started a long time ago. I don't want to say how many years, but it will be sufficient to say that I started when the first revision of the 27001 was published. Anyway, back at that time, I actually had a previous experience in banking industry, and then I started as ISO 27001 consultant. And at that same time, when 27001 was first published, at the same time, actually, the central bank in my country introduced a very strict security rules for banks. Okay, and then basically what I did, I started specializing in offering, you know, consulting services for banks for them to actually get compliance with these central banks regulations for cybersecurity using ISO 27001. And basically I was almost the only consultant in my country which had this knowledge and skills in 27001, but also that had the knowledge and skills or actually the background in banking. Okay, so this is how I found my niche. I actually basically used some my previous experience from a previous professional life, and this helped me actually define a niche because I had some unique knowledge about this industry. And then I connected this with these skills for ISO 27001. And what happened is that actually I was able to sell these consulting services much more easily to banks, because they were saying, look, we would rather hire someone who knows how banks work rather than you know, hire someone that has no idea about it. Okay, so this is why finding a niche is extremely important. For example, if you say, okay, I'm ISO 9001 consultant and I'll, you know, help any kind of company anywhere, you know, in any industry with any size. I mean, come on, who is going to hire you? Because you are not differentiating in any way from any other consultant. But on the other hand, you could say, okay, I'm an ISO 9001 consultant with, I don't know, a special engineering degree in, I don't know, automotive industry. And I'm specialized in, let's say, companies, let's say, automotive companies that, you know, manufacture spare parts, and I'm specialized only, I don't know, in a particular country, then, or with a specific language, then you actually have a much higher chances of actually getting these kind of clients if you're known, if you have some unique background and unique experience in such a market. So my point here is, start with defining a niche, and this niche has to be, let's say, kind of a combination of what your specific background, your specific knowledge, your specific training, and I would say some unique market circumstances. Okay. Now we'll share a link with you now about an article. This is an article I have written about how to define a niche. And for a consultant, and you'll find actually a link now in the chat window. So if you joined actually through Zoom, or if you joined through YouTube, then you'll see this in the chat window. You can simply click this link and it will open right in your browser. If you joined the webinar through LinkedIn, then because of some limitations in LinkedIn, you actually need to copy the URL and paste it into your browser to open the article. Okay, the second thing that you'll need before you start selling is some kind of credibility, okay? And this credibility is typically, you can get this credibility typically through actually get trained and getting some certificates from this training. And in most cases, for consultants that are in ISO business, this would be either ISO lead auditor course or ISO lead implementer course. So if you're going for, I don't know, ISO 27001, this would be ISO 27001 lead implementer or lead auditor course, or this could be, I don't know, ISO 42001 lead auditor, lead implementer course, and so on. So basically, these are the courses that you would typically go for. And actually, we'll share now with you a link to Advisera page where you can actually find these courses. So you'll see now these courses. Anyway, the good thing is actually that the courses on Advisera website are free, so you can actually go through all the videos for free, and we charge only if you want to go for the certification. So basically you can test out and get all the knowledge without payment, but for the certification you would have to pay for the certification exam and then go for the exam. And we'll send you also another link to this article which speaks about which certification and training should consultants go for. You also see this link now in the chat window. Okay, and then the next step, again, before you start selling, is to package your services so that these services actually are attractive to your clients. And when you package your services, what you should not do is, say, okay, to your clients, okay, I charge you per day or per hour, because then you're not connecting your value to basically some kind of price that price that you're setting. Because if the client does not know which outcome they get and how much they will pay for it, is not going to be an attractive, I would say, proposition. So you have to figure out how to package your services in a way that the client has a clear idea on what kind of value they're getting, and then you can differentiate. Is this a one-time service like implementation or introductory training or I don't know, internal audit? Maybe again these are one-time services, or you could offer some continuous services like. For example, you could be, let's say, a second-party auditor. You can actually audit their suppliers for if this is something that is needed by the client. You can actually maintain their system. For example, for cybersecurity, this kind of a vCISO, so virtual CISO service is becoming more and more, I would say, popular. So all kinds of continuous services are also possible for consultants. Anyway, there is another article which I've written around this packaging these consultants. So you'll see now the link to an article is called How should consultants package their services to sell them more easily. So you'll see this link in the chat window now. Okay. Now, the last thing that you have to do before you actually go for, before you define the pricing is defining the, before you actually start selling is define your price. And this pricing, again, depends on several factors. It depends on, how much experience do you have, what kind of industry you're in, because typically, banking and, I don't know, high-tech companies might pay more, whereas more traditional industries will pay less. If this is let's say a very new standard, like for example NIS2, okay, or ISO 42001 or AI governance, then you will typically achieve higher prices, whereas for these older standards like 9001 or 14001 you'll get lower prices. You also need to check what the competitors are charging, and so on and so forth. So there are several things that you have to actually take into account when setting your price. And again, there is another article where I explain exactly how to set the prices and what you take into account, and also you'll see a couple of tips on actually how to find competitor prices, right? So from other consultants. So you'll see all those details in this article, setting the price for consulting services. This is how it's called. Okay, before I move on, I'd like to actually tell you that there is also on our website also another course. It's called How to Become a Consultant, a beginner's course. And let me just share the screen and show how it looks like. Just give me a second. Basically it's a free course, so there is no charge again here, and I'll show you this curriculum here. So basically it's it has 3 modules. The first module is about preparation and launching a consultancy, and basically here you will see more or less the things that I'll explain today in this webinar. So actually the things that I briefly described in the previous slide. So defining your niche, certification and training, what kind of tools and know-how, how to package, how to set the price. And then the second module speaks about how to find the first clients, how to build a personal brand, how to present services and convert clients, and what to include in the consulting agreement. So as you can see here, I'll cover parts of these things in the webinar today. But of course, if you sign up for this course, then you will get into much more details, because these lessons go into much more length, into much more depth than I'm able to cover in this webinar today. And then the third part of this free course is about delivering consulting jobs. So how to run implementation projects, how to run training projects, how to manage audit projects, preparing clients for certification audits, and finally handling security, privacy, intellectual property. So all these things you can see, actually you will be able to see in this course. Anyway, we'll share also this link now. You can see the link now in the chat window. Good. Now, after you do these things, after you do these 4 things, then you're basically ready to actually start selling your consulting services. So when you start selling, you have to identify your ideal client profile. So let's hypothetically say that you're ISO 42001 consultant, so 42001 standard for AI governance, and that you want to focus, let's say, companies of, let's say, 10 employees to 50 employees that are based only in Germany. Let's say that you are based in Germany, so you want to focus only on these kind of companies in Germany that are developing some specific AI-powered products, okay? And not only that you actually want to target a specific person within this company. Let's say that you want to target their chief technology officer, so CTO. So basically this is how you identify an ideal client profile, by defining exactly what type of a company you want to target, and what person within this company you want to target for selling your services. Of course, you can't do this if you didn't do all these 4 steps before. If you didn't identify your niche, if you didn't differentiate within your niche, and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to go back, but again, you will see that anything that I mention in my slides further will depend on you defining your niche and your consulting offer and so on. And then as a second step, you will have to define what are their specific pain points and needs, okay? So, for example, these companies might have problems with AI governance, okay? Maybe they're having problems because they cannot convince their clients that their products are stable enough. Or they simply need a certificate, ISO 42001 or something else. So basically, you really need to understand upfront what these type of companies that you're targeting, what kind of pain do they have, because this is exactly what you need to, let's say, fulfill. This is how you have to start selling them. This is how you pitch them on how you can resolve their pain, how you can resolve their problem. And then once you have this in mind, then you're actually starting to leverage or you start to network, and basically first of all you're starting to leverage your existing network. And when you actually go for your existing network, then you simply go through, through the contacts that you already have. I mean, previously, let's say if you are a new consultant, then you simply go through all your existing business contacts, maybe private contacts and so on. Then you ask those contacts and say, look, I'm specializing in, companies of 10 to 50 employees that are, AI powered, that are developing AI powered products that are based in Germany, and I want to target a CTO in these companies. Can you please recommend me someone, of that profile? Because if you ask a question like that, very specifically, then you might actually get some responses. Because otherwise, if you're saying, look, I'm a consultant, can you please send me anyone to do any kind of consulting job? I don't think so, no one will really help you. But if you're specific, if you're saying exactly what you need, then you might actually come with, then you actually might get some recommendations. There is also one other technique that you might use, but you have to use it very carefully and very, I would say, ethically. So if you're already working in some other job and you're preparing to become a consultant, then while you still did not become a consultant, while you're still working at your old employer, you can use your free time and actually try to get your first clients. Why you might do that? Because what you'll notice is that once you quit your, let's say, regular job and start as a consultant, it will be very hard to get first clients. And basically, while you're not getting any clients, you will simply lose money. I mean, you will have costs, but no revenues. So if you want to shorten this period, then you can actually start selling while you're working for your old employer. Now, it's very, very important here that there is no conflict of interest, that you are not selling your future consulting services while you're actually working for, while you're in the working time for your old employer, because this would be unethical. And of course, you might have to make sure that you are not conflicting somehow, that you're not taking away customers from your existing employer. So if there is no conflict of interest, then you can actually start basically selling your consulting services even before you started a consultancy. Okay, so basically this is, when you have your existing network, what you can do with your existing network. Now, you should also go beyond your first contacts. So you should actually expand your network and your reach through a couple of methods. So one way to do it is actually to participate in these job sites. So for example, you have a job site like Upwork. Okay, Upwork is basically a job site where thousands and tens of thousands of companies are looking for a specific type of contractors, including consultants. I'm not sure if Upwork is a really good, let's say, job site for working as a consultant, because you can't really achieve too high prices there. But there are also some other job sites like 𝗨𝗏𝗏, like Clarity FM. There are a couple of more that are, I would say, better suited for higher priced consultants. There are also directories of consultants, and one of these directories is on Advisera website. So I'll show you this later on. So there is this directory of consultants, where we publish actually all the consultants that we work with, and this is also a way for you to promote your business. Of course, you can also attend various industry events. It could be some conferences or something else. And you can, of course, if you're attending these conferences, then you can, simply circulate around and speak to potential clients and basically offer your services. There is very often a question whether you should advertise yourself, and from my experience, advertising works only if you are highly specialized, if you have a highly, I would say, attractive niche. In this case, this might make sense. I'm not sure if advertising can really work if you're kind of a general consultant, especially if you don't have the brand name. So I'm kind of skeptical with regards to advertising, but again, it might work for some let's say types of consultants. And then when you actually get contact with a prospect, then you basically have to outreach to them. And there I would say 3 basic methods to outreach to prospects, and this is through email, this is through LinkedIn, and through telephone. Of course, telephone was the main channel until a couple of years ago. It's not so, I would say, attractive anymore. Email is becoming also kind of, I would say, not very good because people are getting too many emails. So I personally prefer LinkedIn as a way of reaching out to people. And I actually have a separate slide where I explain how to handle LinkedIn. So I'll come to this. But in any case, you know, for any of these channels, of course, you need to have either the phone number or email address, or for LinkedIn, actually, you don't need these things. I'll show you how to reach people, to basically anyone through LinkedIn. Okay, now what is important is that when you actually reach out to these people, you have to craft a really compelling message. Okay, it needs to be short. You can't really, you know, send first email that is overly lengthy because no one will read it. It has to be extremely personalized. And again, this is where it's very important that you know your ideal customer profile. So again, if these are small companies of 10 to 50 employees that are, you know, developing power products in Germany, then you actually have to you know, start with, you know, their main pain and basically say, look, you're going to resolve this pain. This is why you actually have to prepare, because otherwise your message is going to be simply you're simply not going to convert with a message that is too generic, that doesn't really address their pain. And of course, you'll have to test. You'll send dozens and dozens of these messages, and then you'll see to which messages you'll have to change those messages, and then see actually what messages are performing the best, where you actually get the best response. Of course, no one is going to, you know, buy your services right away, you know, based on your first message. Unfortunately, this doesn't happen. So you need to actually figure out how you follow up. Now, it's important that when you follow up in a, I would say, intelligent way. What is not very intelligent is that you are sending this person, I don't know, emails every day. It's not going to work. I mean, after 2 or 3 emails, you know, this receiver will simply, you know, put your emails into spam, and, you know, that will be over. So basically, if you're sending, let's say, through email, you can send initial message, maybe a reminder message, maybe in a week or 2, and then another maybe in a month. But I would say that would be it. You know, you don't push it too hard, because too many messages will, again, only create a negative, I would say, negative relationship. What you should be doing is, actually, you should, let's say, start nurturing this contact in a different way. You should actually try to educate this contact by sending some educational materials. So instead of sending them messages, okay, are you going to buy our services? You're actually sending them educational material. Okay, look, here are new articles about ISO 42001. Here are new articles about, you know, how AI developers can use, I don't know, AI governance to, you know, build better whatever. And, you know, you're educating them, but at the same time, you're basically nurturing your relationship. And the more you actually, let's say, teach them, the more likely they will actually come back to you later on and use your services. Okay, I'll actually explain in the next slide how to nurture these clients, basically how to basically create this deeper relationship through some kind of content. But let me first show you what I mentioned earlier, this content directory, so ISO consultant directory. So this is published on Advisera website. As you can see, you know, we publish many, something like almost 200 consultants there. And basically you can filter them out by the standard. So if you are searching for a consultant and you're searching for someone who is offering, let's say, NIS2 services, you simply click this, and then you see actually lots of consultants who are offering this. this particular standard. Of course, you can also filter by service, filter by, let's say, country. Let's say how many do we have in Australia? So okay, 13 consultants in Australia. And I'll actually let you know how to put your name on this directory later on. Actually, we do not charge anything for it, but we actually ask you to sign a contract with us so that you are our partner. But I'll let you know how to do it at the end of the webinar. I'll share the link with our colleague who can actually talk to you about this. All right, going back to my presentation. The next basically phase, so to say, is to for getting clients in the long term is basically that you start building your brand as an expert. And not only are you building your brand as an expert, you're also nurturing these contacts that I mentioned in the previous slide, right? So you have to kind of nurture them, you have to show them your expertise, you have to educate them, and you're actually being able to do this by doing these things that I'll go through this slide now. So for example, what you should be doing is that you should start writing articles for some professional magazines, okay? So let's say that you, let's say that you are an engineer working with ISO 9001 for automotive industry, then you can, there are certainly some magazines specific for companies that are in automotive industry, and then you can, publish some articles there about some, let's say, insights that you have so that you actually build your brand as an expert. So this is how you start to differentiate, because you add something new. Of course, you can start your own blog, you can start your own articles, and this is even better, because then people can see that you actually know a lot, because you published, 10 or 20 or 50 or a couple of hundred articles. On social media, of course, you should share your insights. So especially through LinkedIn, and I'll come back to this later. But the point is that on LinkedIn or any other social media, you should not share only someone else's thoughts. You should actually share your own thoughts. And even better, if you publish the articles or blogs, then you can actually publish the, let's say, short snippets from these materials. And basically, this is the way for sharing insights. And of course, you can send these also to your existing contacts, existing prospects, and this is exactly how you nurture them in the long term. You should also participate in some industry forums. So basically, you can, there might be some kind of discussion forums where people from particular industries are participating, and then you can actually share your expertise there. It's also a good way to, let's say, promote your name, because then you are actually showing that you can actually resolve some particular problems. You can also deliver webinars. Delivering webinars like a webinar today is a very effective way to communicate with your target audience, because this is something that at least we in Advisera find it's very good, actually, because these kind of live webinars are a great way, because people can ask questions, and then once you answer these questions, it creates kind of a good relationship with these prospects. And what we also found was great is delivering webinars. Okay, delivering courses. So if you can actually create a whole course and start delivering this course, then it will actually you will not only make some additional money of these courses, you will also show to your audience the level of your expertise. So anyone who is going through your course will start believing in you and basically trusting that excellent, that you are basically one of the best experts in that particular field. So all of these, I would say, all of these 6 bullets here show you, let's say, potential ways to show your expertise. And basically the idea is that you're starting to build your brand. Why? In order that you can actually start getting leads without selling directly, okay? Because if you, get people on the webinar, or if you get people to listen to your course, then you don't have to sell this, your services directly to these people. Rather, these people will come to you. And this is the best thing, when actually leads start coming to you without you having the need actually to reach out to them. This is really the best way for long term to get all of these clients. Okay, I'll show you now a couple of examples of what we are doing. So let me just go back to our website. So I'll show you, where was this? Yeah, I can't find this now. Anyway, doesn't matter. But what I wanted to show you is a list of webinars. Yeah, a list of webinars on Advisera website. So let me just show you this. So when you go here, here you will see a list of all the webinars that we are delivering in Advisera. As you can see there, webinars around for consultants, obviously, then webinars for AS 9100, for 14001, for this AI Copilot, for internal auditing, for GDPR, and so on. So as you can see, we are delivering lots and lots of webinars. And again, this is one of one very effective way to deal with this, to actually get recognized as an expert. Of course, if your website is not strong enough to, let's say, attract the audience, then you can arrange with someone else to actually become a presenter at the webinar. What I also wanted to show you is articles. For example, let me try to find an article, list of articles that I published. Just give me a second. So let me type in my name. Okay, here, for example. So here you will see, actually, this is not what I wanted. Anyway, the point is that you can, let me see if there is, okay, here is the one. So you can see all the articles that I've written here, and you'll find lots and lots of articles here. So any kind of, let's say, potential client that is looking at my articles, he or she will also see that I know I write a lot, and therefore it's a good way to build trust, let's say, in an expert. Okay, good. We'll share now a link with you to my blog, so that you can actually open it yourself, and also to Advisera webinar. So if you want to take a look at these details, you will see this. Just click on these links that we're sharing now. Okay, now this way of actually, so basically, as you've seen, the first kind of step in selling is really that you find prospects by direct contact. The second step is that you actually build your brand. And then there is also a third step. This is the next slide. This is where you actually build your thought leadership. Okay, this is when you push this concept even further. Okay, and what does this mean, building thought leadership? Basically, this means that you can actually speak at podcasts. Because when you start actually giving your interviews on let's say, other people's podcasts, this means that you have something unique to say, and that your voice is, let's say, that you are actually presenting something new, something that did not exist before. Okay, so this is basically, I would say, one of the ways for you actually to step even further basically present yourself as an expert. And by the way, I also do a podcast. It's called Secure and Simple Podcast, and my colleague will share the link now through this chat window. And there I interview. So we already do it for more than a year. I did something like 30 or so interviews. And there I interview successful consultants and security managers, and they actually present their unique cases on how they became successful. And by the way, if you think that you have some kind of a unique experience, then you can contact me, and maybe we can arrange also for me to interview you and to publish this interview on the Secure and Simple podcast. For example, a couple of weeks ago I published a podcast with one consultant who actually went through a ransomware attack. Okay, he worked as a consultant for a company that was attacked by that had a ransomware attack, and then this consultant actually presented his experience on how this went. So this is a very unique experience, and I was very happy, to to interview him and to publish this interview. So again, if you have some kind of unique experience, some kind of a unique insight, I'll be more than happy to organize this kind of an interview and publish this on the podcast. Okay, of course you can speak at conferences. If there are some industry conferences and if there is some kind of a unique topic that you can present, then this is something that you should definitely go for. How should you do it? You simply, contact the conference organizers and let them know, look, and actually this goes back to your niche, right? If you have specific combination of, let's say, your experience and industry, then you will most probably be interesting also for organizers that you can actually speak there. YouTube is certainly one of the channels where you can build your brand, and I have a separate slide for this, so I'll go through this in a couple of minutes. You can start with your own podcast. If you have, I would say, enough good contacts, if you think that you can really do this, because if you want to have your own podcast, you have to be a regular. So I publish these episodes every 2 weeks, and you must do it really regularly, otherwise it's not going to work. So it's not easy, but it's also doable. And you could also publish books. Very often when you publish a book, then potential clients see you as a thought leader, because they consider you someone as a top expert because you're able to write a book on it. All right, now let's move on to using LinkedIn. So let me present you a couple of advanced techniques on how you can use LinkedIn. First of all, to explain what is the difference between a personal profile and the company page. On a company page, you basically publish some basic information about the company, about your services, these kind of things. But I think that personal profile is much more important on LinkedIn than your company profile. Why? Because in your personal profile, you can actually share your unique insight as an expert. Okay, this is something that is, let's say, something that is, I would say, relevant for you as a person. Whereas, sharing insights as on a company profile wouldn't really work. So you want to present yourself as an expert, and then you do it actually on your personal profile, not on company profile. Of course, you need to set up your profile properly. You need to have a nice photo. You have to, fill all the elements there of your profile. So it needs to be really done very, very properly. It really needs to look very good. You have to post regularly. Okay. Now, you might ask, okay, what do I post? You can post, information about any new webinar that you are going to where you are going to present. You can publish any new articles, okay, that you are publishing. You can, distribute any kind of white papers. You can post any short videos, especially if you do it on YouTube as well. You can post your insights. You don't even need to refer to your article or whatever. You simply have some kind of an insight, you post it, and this is something that you do there. You can publish your newsletter, okay? This is something that also works very well for me. So, there are various things that you can actually do on your LinkedIn to keep it very active. And let me now switch to my LinkedIn profile just to show you what I mean. So, okay, this is my profile. As you can see already, 36,000 followers here. And yeah, so lots of elements here. And let me just show you what I normally publish. So yeah, I publish things about, okay, this is about 𝗂𝗲𝗶𝘀, this is about this is about the video, and so on and so forth. So as you let me just go here to see in the posts. Okay, this is a short video. This is an article that I published, and we created a PDF out of it. This is an article from another article from ENISA. This is the European Cybersecurity Agency, and so on. So basically, as you can see, I publish lots of things, and I publish this pretty regularly. I also have this newsletter. So basically, you can sign up for this newsletter. Let me just see where you can actually see it. yeah, basically here, view my newsletter. So if you click on this, you will actually see the newsletter, and then you can also sign up on my newsletter on LinkedIn. So lots of activities here, and obviously this is something that the audience seems to like. Okay, going back to the presentation, yeah, we'll share now, of course, the link to this LinkedIn profile. But let me just explain how to reach out directly to prospects. As I mentioned, I prefer LinkedIn actually to do this. Why? Because I can target them very nicely. So again, this example, I want to target CTOs of companies in Germany, 10 to 50 employees that are doing AI development. I do this, you can actually do anyone can do this through this tool called Sales Navigator. It's actually a paid service from LinkedIn, so you have to subscribe to it. But what it enables you is to do exactly this. You can actually narrow your search to any company in, for example, only Germany. And then you can say, okay, I want companies in Germany. I want companies that are AI companies that are developing AI, let's say some kind of AI products. And I want to select only the chief technology officers from those companies. And you can actually do this kind of a search, and then it will, you will end up with, I don't know, a couple of hundred people on this list, right? Or maybe a couple of thousand, because Germany is obviously a big country. And then what you can actually do, you can send direct messages to these people through LinkedIn. And all of this is legal, all of this is enabled simply by paying this, Sales Navigator. Obviously, you can't send thousands of messages per month. I think a limit is something like 50 or 100. I'm not sure exactly about the number. But the point being is, you can send these messages directly to your prospects, directly to people that you are directly interested in. Of course, not everyone will answer you, but still, it's a great way to target your audience. But again, you have to be very clear what your audience is, what is your ideal client, and then focus on those clients and send them messages that are really meaningful for them. Okay, good. Let's go for YouTube. YouTube is, I would say, it's more difficult than LinkedIn. Why? Because you have to, shoot videos, and not everyone is happy with recording videos. I mean, I started with YouTube, let's say 2 years ago in earnest, and it wasn't really easy in the beginning. I mean, now it's easier for me. I do it almost every day now, but in the beginning it took a steep, I would say, learning curve. But if you have time, if you find time, then I would say that YouTube can actually have even more positive impact on your, let's say, impression as an expert, or building your expert brand. So what kind of videos you can publish? You can publish regular videos where you explain something, in 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. You could have these shorts, right? These are short videos that are in vertical format. You could have live streaming like now. Okay, this is one of the videos that is also published on YouTube. I mean, this very webinar today. You could have podcasts, as I mentioned. So there are various types of videos that you can publish. And with regards to topics, again, you have several options there. You can explain. You can publish so-called explainer videos. So this is a video where you explain, okay, what is ISO 42001, or what is ISO 27001, or what is EU AI Act. All kinds of this kind of videos. Or you can publish how-to videos. And these how-to videos go into more depth. So how to implement ISO 42001, how to implement ISO 27001, how to perform risk assessment for 27001, how to do internal audit, and these kind of things. And you can also create videos where you actually record hand-on demonstrations of your products, okay? And then you show, okay, this is how I don't know, this is how we perform a consulting service for this type of a client. Or in our case, you'll see lots of my videos showing, okay, this is how Advisera courses look like, or this is how, I don't know, Conformio or GRC works. So this is also a type of videos that you can publish. Of course, you can also publish some client stories if you have a client who is willing actually to give you let's say a testimonial, video testimonials, then you record this kind of a testimonial and publish it. So there are various videos that you can publish. Let me actually show you how this looks like on my profile. Okay, this is my profile on YouTube, so close to 300,000 subscribers, 1,000 videos, and yeah, you can see now. Okay, I have a series of videos here about ISO 27001, about NIST 2, about 42001, videos for consultants, for DORA, and these are now videos about our products. This is Company Training Academy. This is the training platform that we have. This is the podcast. These are some videos about free compliance tools, upcoming live streams, and so on. So as you can see, lots of things that you could do here. We'll also share now a link with you to this YouTube profile. Okay, now what is the approach? So basically, typically, especially if you record these videos, then you actually want to present a problem. Okay, so for example, you have a problem that I don't know, that you can't do the risk assessment, and then you actually show how risk assessment needs to be performed, and then you go with this call to action, where you say, look, if you want our consulting company to help you with the risk assessment, reach out to us, and you give your contact details. So typically, you always show the problem, show the solution, and then call to action. So usually this is how it works. And yeah, it's very important that you publish regularly. So as I mentioned, for podcasts, it's important that it goes regularly, but also these other videos, because if you publish one video, I don't know, this week, and then 3 weeks nothing, it's not going to work. I publish 2 or 3 videos per week, and this is the cadence that I'm keeping. So again, YouTube is not really for everyone. It's not like everyone. I mean, LinkedIn is definitely that every consultant should do. So I don't think that you can be successful as a consultant without doing LinkedIn in a proper way. YouTube is, I would say, a different beast, so to say. It's harder, it's much more time consuming, but if you can afford it time-wise, I think the return is going to be great for you. Good. And then, okay, I'm running a little bit late. I thought that I was already finished, so let me try to go through this kind of quickly, and then I'll wrap up the webinar. How to present your clients. So first of all, you have to, once you have the prospect, then you have to actually research the industry, the client, the prospect that is interested, right? Then you have to research their particular industry, this particular client. You have to do this discovery call with them. So it's much better that you do this discovery call with them before you actually do the main call with them, because in the discovery call, you can find out what their real pain is. Okay, so this is something that you typically can't do on the main call where you want to sell your services. So definitely try to do this discovery call before. And then at the main meeting, what you're basically presenting, you should try to keep it simple. You present, what is the problem, what is the solution, and what results they will get. Okay, so you should keep it as simple as that, these 3 things. Of course, you should also present the milestones, the benefits, clarify the roles, and you should somehow present these trust elements. And there are 3 trust elements. The first one is, why you, okay? So this is where you present your knowledge and skills and references. You have to present as part of this trust is industry knowledge, okay? So you need to show that you understand their industry very, very deeply. And the third thing that is building your trust is that you recognize their specific needs, okay? So if you can show your specific knowledge and skills and experience, if you can show that you know their industry and that you can understand their specific pains, this is actually how you build trust. And this is also very important in this main meeting with your clients. And of course, once you write the proposal, you have to reiterate these elements that you presented in the main meeting, and you have to follow up. So basically, this is then how you try to close the deal. Okay, good. So I've tried to make it a little bit, I've gone a little bit faster through this slide because I want to finish the whole webinar in time. So let me just go for a conclusion here. So, I would say, unfortunately, the most difficult part of the consulting work is to find clients, and really to be successful, you need these three things. You have to define your niche, you have to differentiate yourself clearly, and you have to find a way to reach your clients. And if you manage to do all of these three things, then you can, I would say, be a successful consultant and actually get enough clients. And of course, for that purpose, you can use various Advisera's tools. Yeah, we'll share now a link with you for this Advisera partner program. There you can actually see all the ways we partner with consultants. And you can see already in the chat window this link for our partner manager. So if you want your name to be listed on this Advisera directory of consultants, then you can schedule a call with our partner manager, and he will actually explain you how this works. Again, it costs nothing. The only thing is that we want actually to sign an agreement with you. Okay, good. Yeah, so let me go through this Q&A. And yeah, so feel free to send me any questions now. I'll be more than happy to answer all of your questions. And before I start answering your questions, just a couple of notes. First of all, feel free to reach out directly to me, to my email address. You can see my email address on the screen now, so just use this email address to send me your questions. Second, you can follow me on LinkedIn and YouTube. We already shared all of these links with you, so you can use those links. And yeah, my next webinar will be next webinar at the same time. And it will actually be on how to use 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗏 Copilot for cybersecurity and ISO professionals. So this 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗏 is actually a product of ours. It's we are launching actually a new version of 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗏, and it's an AI-powered product which really helps again, especially consultants and compliance professionals actually do their work. So if you're interested in how this works, you can actually sign up for this webinar next week, and you'll see the link for the upcoming webinars also in the chat window. Okay, good. Let me see any questions that came in. So question from Anthony. Any advice on securing work by working for other consultancies? Yes, so of course you can reach out to other consultants, but you should try actually to find consultants that are very similar to your niche, because again, if you want to kind of build your competence, you should actually go in a direction that suits your specific background, and you should try to find consultants that are similar in this area, and then simply try to basically work for them in the first time. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy because it's something that consultants will hire new consultants only if they have enough work to do, and it's not very easy to expand on your business. So I'm not saying that you'll find very easily consultants to work with, but for example, you can also contact these consultants that you see on our website. You can simply fill in the form, and they will receive your message. Okay, and another message I received for ISO 27001 specifically, the amount of tech knowledge needed for someone like myself coming from a non-tech background. Okay, so basically if this is a challenge, then the best thing is really to go through these ISO 27001 courses, because this is where you actually learn, even if you are not, let's say, an IT person, if you are not a security person, these courses that you can find on our website will teach you about enough details to actually start working as ISO 27001 consultant. Of course, on top of that, you can use some tools, especially actually this 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗏 tool, which is a Copilot, very good for experienced consultants, but also for junior consultants. You will be able to use it actually to learn anything about a standard. And again, if you want to sign up for this webinar next week, I'll explain actually how you can use 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗏 as a junior consultant, where you actually want to learn about the standard or how to perform consulting work. Okay, I think I answered all the questions, so let me wrap up the webinar. Just a few words before we finish. So as I mentioned, this webinar today was really too short to go into details of how to perform consulting work, but for that purpose you can join these courses that I presented. We'll also, as I mentioned, we'll publish this PDF presentation deck with all the links from today. If you joined through YouTube or LinkedIn, then we'll publish these links on the same page where you're now. So just don't close your window. Keep it open for maybe 10 minutes and then come back in 10 minutes and you will see in the comment section, you will see links, and one of these links will be for downloading the presentation deck, and you will see also other links that we shared during the webinar today. And if you join through Zoom, then we will send you all these links through an email latest by tomorrow morning. And you'll also see a link to a short survey. So I would appreciate if you could answer this poll just to let me know how I did in this webinar today. And this would be all. Thank you very much for your participation, and I hope you have enjoyed this webinar. Have a nice day.